This week's scenario is Recon 2 from the 2017 Steamroller packet. This scenario does have Killbox Artifice in effect, and consists of flags which can be controlled for 1 CP by solos, warcasters, and warlocks, rectangular zones which can be controlled by war beast, war jacks, warcasters, and warlocks, and an objective which can be destroyed for 1 CP. Victory conditions consist of winning 5 more control points than your opponent or caster assassination.
Hey everybody, this is Gaston, and today we're playing Servath Reznik, Wrath of Ages. I got this list and the inspiration for it off of Chandler Torres and Line of Sight Warmachine. If you've ever had the chance to look at them, they're a fantastic resource for Protector players. This is a very Jack-heavy list, so I went ahead and put it into the Jack theme. One of the things with this is I wanted this as a Ghost Fleet drop, so I have the Redeemer in there, I have the Vessel of Judgment in there, to add a lot of shooting firepower to back up Reznik's feet, to help with that remove from play, remove with that infantry removal. And I think that's going to become very important as I'm looking across the field into my opponent's list. He has 25 Weapon Masters. That's pretty scary, pretty intimidating for me. So as we go through and deploy, I'm trying to keep the Vessel of Judgment and the Redeemer very central to my army, so that way I can send them to wherever they need to go in order to take advantage of his counter deployment.
So this week I got paired up against Protectorate of Menoth, and looking at Durst and Reznik 2 as the pairing, I didn't feel Ossian would be a good pick at all. So I went with my Helynna double Sentinels list. It's not the best matchup. Reznik 2's feat is really going to do some work after my feat. So basically I've got 1 turn to time walk until he feats and I lose all of my Sentinels. But hopefully in that time I'll be able to flood the zones and score some control points to get ahead and hopefully make some favorable trades. I'm going to try to use the 2 forests to block line of sight. And maybe if he shoots a few of the Sentinels down, be able to vengeance them out from behind the forest to get some line of sight on things and get some charges off. But hopefully there won't be too much of an issue to try to control the board with a ton of Weapon Masters into his small footprint of just a few jacks in the battle engine.
I had won the roll-off and opted to go first, which I feel in this matchup is almost a necessity, because given the amount of anti-shooting that Helynna can bring with Deceleration, with the mini feat, with her main feat, I want to give him not a bunch of board real estate that he can move up and threaten me without, my ability to counterplay to that. So even though, he got the ability to counter-deploy to me, now, he's shifted his line away from the Redeemer, away from the Vessel of Judgment. I feel like the initiative in this, at least going first. One of the things I'm being very careful in doing is I have Scourge of Heresy up there, and I want to keep him in between Reznik and the Vessel of Judgment, 3 inches, so that way he can't Hunter's Mark either of them, and then the choir are going to go ahead, they're going to chant no spells. Removing that Hunter's Mark takes away a lot of the ability of Imperatus to get up into my lines, to start threatening Reznik. Just taking away that free charge, not even dealing with the extra movement, is a big nerf to his hitting power, particularly when you're playing a lot of Armor 21 jacks. He's dice off 2, so you want to remove his number of attacks.
So turn 1, this list is pretty straightforward. It's run forward and throw Weapon Masters at my opponent. Right now, I really want to get as far up the board as possible without getting into his threat ranges. Reznik 2 and his jacks with Boundless Charge are really going to be an issue. He's got him tucked away pretty safe behind that wall, and it's really going to be difficult for me to kind of get the Alpha Strike off on his jacks where he's positioned them. So hopefully I can keep most of my stuff safe, either behind the forest or up on the hill. And next turn, maybe get some stuff up there to jam him up and to use my feet to keep things as safe as possible, because I know as soon as he feats after mine that all my Sentinels are going to die, and that it's kind of a time-sensitive thing to do as much work as possible before his feat, because it's really not going to look good. Their armor 17 is not going to do much against the POW 14 AoEs of his feat. But right now, just trying to, minimize the amount of work that he'll be able to get done here and project enough threat for next turn with the feat, and keep everything safe. But after that, pretty sure it's going to be downhill. So I need to take as much of the board as possible and to score as many control points as possible before the attrition fight really goes downhill for me.
Originally I'd started with Lamentation in play and Death March onto Rhoven and company. I go ahead and I drop those off. They start for free, so I might as well have them, but I don't see either of them particularly coming into play in this game, and I'd much rather camp my focus against the threat of Imperatus. What I'm looking to do here is that he's kept his Weapon Masters a little bit further back, so I want to kind of pop off and get some easy kills on them while I still can. And so we're going to set myself up to, take those shots, keep Reznik safe, and then also have the zone contested with a fair amount of shield guards around the models contesting the zone. One of the things that Helynna has that's very strong is her gun allows you to reposition models. So, obviously you don't want that. So the Vessel of Judgment, he's moving up. He has a little bit of issue here with the objective and the flag there, making his movement difficult. But he's just barely going to get the shot off on the Sentinels, boost to hit, do the arcs, kill two of them that way. Unfortunately, the last Sentinel of that little triad is just around the corner of the forest, so it doesn't have line of sight. But still getting, two for, free, quote unquote, is pretty solid. Next up, I'm going to have Reznik just back up a little bit. He's putting up Spell Piercer, so that way I get around the deceleration armor bonus for Helynna. One of the things that I think people really undersell with this theme force is the reposition on the choir. When you look at this list on the table, you see, you have a pretty decent front line of jacks, a couple of huge bases, but then you just have this support smear, this big bloat of solos and units behind it. And being able to, move them, reposition, things of that nature is actually very powerful, I think, in my opinion. So I have the choir, they're just kind of sneaking around. That's a mechanic right there. He's repairing the damage off the Vessel of Judgment, and then he's going to go ahead and reposition onto that flag. Now we have the Redeemer going. He's just walking up. I'm going to try to get some line of sight. Unfortunately, he can't walk far enough to peek around that corner at that Sentinel. So he's just lobbing some shots from downtown at the guys on the hill. Unfortunately, I don't particularly get any lucky on the dice. I don't hit or kill any of them. It's the unfortunate problem with Rat 1. You just kind of learn to live with it. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm building up my little bunker here of shield guard buddies. So the Templar's moving, he's going to stay behind the wall to keep safe. Rhoven and co are running, they're towing in the zone. And so now I've got, shield guard on, Gaius. I've got Gaius as Cashin as a shield guard on Rhoven, the Templar to shield guard. And then I'm going to go ahead and move Scourge of Heresy, and he's going to be covering both Reznik and the Vessel of Judgment again to protect them from Hunter's Mark. Again, looking to protect against Imperatus getting in there and doing unfortunate things to me. Choir move up, they chant no spells to cover everything else, and so that'll be my little bunker here.
So he did his best to leave everything outside of my threat range as much as he could while also contesting the zones. He's going to try to make it pretty difficult for me. I do have my feet this turn, which is going to at least give me the opportunity to keep a lot of my stuff alive. But I don't feel comfortable with the amount of work that I'm going to be able to get done. I do get the Vengeance moves to get some of the Sentinels into position for some charges. He has left his caster in a position where I can get some shots off from my jacks. And my main goal here is going to try to be to clear my zone and to score my zone in my flag and to contest him from scoring his flag. I do manage to get my jack shots off on his caster, which does go pretty well for me. But I don't think I'm going to be able to get enough work done on this turn to where I'm going to be able to win the attrition fight long term. So hopefully I can get up on scenario and be able to stay up and maybe somehow be able to pull off a win that way, but I don't think the attrition fight is going to go well for me, knowing that a lot of my Sentinels are going to die after my feat expires. Right now I'm just kind of trying to get an idea where I need the jacks to go to get the shots off into him. The boostable shots is really going to do well. I think on the Imperatus shot, I rolled 666 and really kind of start the turn off well, knowing that Reznik's not going to feel comfortable staying as far up the field once he's got some work into, or some damage put into him. That might help me kind of get some stuff done. In hindsight, once I do get the brain damage off on him, I forgot to remember that he wouldn't be able to cast Boundless Charge from his jacks without being able to have Pathfinder to charge over the wall. So when I do my Rhythm of War movements at the end of the turn, I could have projected a little bit more threat by moving my jacks forward, knowing they can't charge over the wall, instead of backing them up out of his threat ranges. But at the time I didn't think about that, and that he wouldn't be able to charge over the wall, so I backed my jacks up. But for future, I would try to remember that he has no other way to give his jacks Pathfinder to get over the wall, since he had brain damage on his caster. But other than that, the turn goes fairly well. My order of activations on my Sentinels was a little off. I killed the warrior model and let him Doors of Judgment to kill one of the Sentinels that had charged in on the jack in the other zone before its charge was resolved. That probably could have been gone a little better, but other than that, the turn went well. Being able to get both of the shots off on his caster really helped me out, and between brain damage and getting a lot of his health gone, definitely is going to change the way he plays his next turn. But at the time, I did not feel safe, even with the feat. Just knowing how far his character jack with the bond can go really was pretty intimidating. And I did not want my caster to die or to lose a jack, even on feet. I think he probably could have killed one of them. So I know if he was able to deliver Scourge into my caster with Purgation and Rhythm of War, it would have been a really bad day for me. But I think overall the turn went well, and hopefully enough stuff will survive through the feat, and we can, maintain our scoring.
At the time, I was kind of kicking myself for not killing that Sentinel with Rhoven when I went to hit him, because he was the only thing contesting my flag. In retrospect, I think that would have triggered Vengeance and put me in a much worse position, so it was probably better that it did not kill him. Going forward into this turn, it's his feat turn, it's his mini feat turn. They're all armor 25, I think, against shooting, 23, and we're just going to play a game of patience. Back when he was starting to do the shooting with Imperatus and Discordia, I had elected to just kind of take him on Reznik, because there's no way it's going to do that much damage. I'll be able to recover from that no problem. And then he got the 666s on Imperatus, and it's just, you can't shield guard Discordia. So you're like, oh man, that hurt. So we're going to be doing a lot of healing, a lot of repairing this turn as well. Ultimately, though, I'm not going to pretty much attack anything. The Vessel of Judgment activates, he pushes the Sentinel out, so that way he is no longer contesting my flag, so that way I'll be getting control points this turn. Otherwise, I'm being very careful, and the mechanic repair, reposition, and I'm measuring all the threat ranges, and I want to make sure that I'm not in any of his threat ranges where he can get a major amount of Sentinels. Onesies, twosies coming in, not a big deal to me, but if he can land 3 or 4 onto a single heavy, then that becomes a significant deal. So now the Redeemer, he's probably going to eventually go ahead, and the one thing I can shoot on his turn is his objective. At first we think that I destroy it, but then we go back and we realize that there's a bunch of effects like his feet and things that we didn't account for, so it'll stay on the table. Otherwise, it's a very quiet turn. Reznik can't cast any spells. He's just going to heal up, again, move away from Imperatus. You saw he put a bunch of focus onto Scourge in order to cancel any spells, Hunter's Mark, things of that nature. Just backing up out of threat range and waiting. The P in Protector is for patience, and this is you have to wait for your enemy to come to you. You don't want to lose on scenario. You want to play smart about that. But we're just biding my time and waiting and waiting and waiting. And it's a little bit boring at the start, but it'll pay off, I swear, later on when you do get to finally pop your feet and blow away all the Sentinels. That's what we're going for. That's what we're anticipating happening. So Reznik's going. He's healing himself for a decent amount with his focus. Hierophant's going to go. The Hierophant's going to heal him. The Vassal Mechanik, he's a battle engine. He's going to heal him. So we're just trying to remove all this damage because I was just done with getting shot. It's what I do. Ultimately, this is a relatively quiet turn. I also want to talk a little bit about time management. He was very practiced with his list, so he had a lot of muscle memory going into this. So he's doing very good on time. On the other hand, I just don't have as much muscle memory as he does. So I'm checking my cards a lot, and you should always go out and help yourself and memorize all your stats, play things multiple times, so that way you don't need to constantly go back and forth, recheck War Room, things like that. Set yourself up for success when playing this game.
So Gaston did the smart thing and just didn't try to kill any of the Sentinels that had extremely high armor, and threw a little bit more stuff into the zones, and wasn't gonna to expose himself to lose too much while his caster was wounded and brain damaged. And he kind of just kept everything safe and out of my threat, so that next turn I wouldn't be able to do too much damage. He's playing well, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get up too high on scenario, but I think at least this turn I'll be able to take the lead on scenario play and clear my zone and contest his flag again. But I know his next turn is going to be a really bad one for me because, as I said earlier, the armor 17 isn't going to hold up well to a Reznik 2 feet. I need to try to get some damage done on his stuff with the Sentinels before they do die, and hopefully that'll be enough for me to pull out a win even after the attrition starts to go downhill for me. I'm not expecting to be able to contest his zone much longer after this turn, but hopefully I'm putting enough stuff in his face and getting in his way and creating enough problems to where he's not able to get into my jacks again this turn, and that they'll be around to kind of finish off the game for me after his feat. When I talked about the Door of Judgment last turn, I was wrong. I guess that was this turn. He just did that, where he killed one of the guys that I hadn't resolved charges on yet. The one guy he's put into the middle of my zone's really creating a problem because I don't want to waste any of my jacks or my unit of Sentinels activation to kill the one guy. I just want to get him out of there. He's got set defense, so I don't want to charge. I just advance in, go to punch him in the face, but at 8 boxes, I don't do enough damage to kill him, and I'm going to have to commit a little bit more than I would have liked to kill the one guy jamming the zone. It created quite the problem in trying to figure out what I wanted to do. But again, I want as much work out of these Sentinels because I don't think they're going to be around next turn. This pairing was a pretty rough pairing for me to go into, and I'm hoping that for the rest of the games in this scramble we have put together, it will be a little bit clearer which list I need to drop in order to fight my opponent. But this one was rough because putting a gun line into Menoth that doesn't have a lot of magical weapons on their guns would have been pretty difficult, and Durst is pretty much impervious to gunfire between his feet and decel and high armor. But we'll see how the Sentinels do. We'll see how they fare on his feet, but I don't think it's going to go well for them. I'm having a lot of trouble between all of his shield guards and his arcane vortex, trying to use my tricks of Helynna's gun pull and Lanyssa's hunter's mark to get a little bit of extra threat on my charges. So both of my jacks are kind of jockeying with his on where they need to go, but it's proving pretty tough.
So it took a really, really long time, but now finally going into turn 4, we're able to start actually playing this game. All of his defenses are down, his infantry is now vulnerable to me, to my feet. So we're going to go ahead, start allocating out some serious amounts of focus. Just checking Reznik's control area, he's eventually going to move up, and he is going to pop feet. The other thing I'm being very careful about is, again, I want to make sure that I don't lose on Hunter's Mark, and Imperatus is now down to the bottom flank off camera, but he's just kind of, he's waiting there, so we definitely don't want to run afoul of him. I had not expected Rhoven or Gaius, whoever I ran up there, to be as problematic for his order of activations. That's something going forward, playing into matches like this, I think is really interesting because he has very few solos, but he has 2 units. So if you're able to, park things that are relatively durable directly in front of his models, that actually causes him quite a bit of problems that may not normally happen in a list where you have a lot more attacks that are not tied directly to a huge amount of model activations. So that was something I hadn't really thought of going into this, and it turned out to work out pretty well to my advantage. So Reznik's going, he's throwing out a Flesh is Weak. It misses. I don't think it does anything because I suck. And then he's going to go ahead and he's going to feat. So ultimately we have the Vassal, he's going over there, he's topping off that 1 Templar. Now we're activating the Choir. They are doing what they need to do to get important jacks in range and then put out battle. And then they are all repositioning backwards out of the way. And this Templar is going to do something you almost never get to do, which is awesome. He's going to trample. So he's going to step on a couple of Sentinels, and then they're going to explode, and then they're going to kill another Sentinel, and it's just going to be glorious awesomeness. This is what we want out of a Reznik feat. Just, pick him up. So he tramples, he buys an attack. Reznik did actually curse that unit, so he is swinging at Mat 8, which is very nice. So he kills 1. The explosion damages the officer but does not kill the other guy, so he buys another attack and finishes off the unit, except for the Soulless Escort, who's still hanging out on the hill. Since he is not actually in the zone, though, that is significantly less of a problem for me. I have my book come forward. He says no spells in order to be annoying, but mostly I want to have that Ancient Shroud cause a lot of issues with him with the book contesting. Again, we were talking earlier about, solos taking up high value attacks. He has to spend 5 Weapon Master attacks on the Covenant rather than spending them actually, on the models that he cares about. So next up we have the Vessel of Judgment. He's going to try to dig a little bit deeper into his lines, cause some more explosions. So just getting the range. And kaboom, kaboom. He's also doing all the leaps at the same time. And just watching the Sentinels disappear. It's a beautiful feeling. So I believe his next shot goes on to the Scyir, and he'll take him out as well with some boosted damage rolls. Or maybe not. Nope, he just damages the Scyir. My apologies. So Scourge goes, and Scourge uses his reach and smacks to death another 2 Sentinels. Again, they die from the feet. Now the Redeemer is able to come on over. He's going to pop the shot into just a Sentinel in the back there. The reason I did that is the Scyir is def 13, the Sentinel in the back is def 12. So you're still going to get the POW 14 on the Scyir, and hopefully kill another 3 guys. So that is about as good as you can ask of a feat turn. That was a lot of high value stuff that just got completely removed, and because we played with patience, the impact that they were able to have on the game was very minimal to me. They didn't get a lot of attacks on my high value targets.
Wow, like I expected, I lost a lot of Sentinels, and I lost a lot more than I thought. I was pretty confident I would lose all the ones in the top zone, but the bottom zone unit also took quite a few casualties. I am up on Scenario, but not as up as much as I'd like to be. His force is still almost completely intact. His caster is healed back up. He still has his heavies. I don't know if I'm going to be able to attrition down favorably at all here. Hopefully there's other ways for me to pull this off. It's not in the shot, but at this point I am up on clock, and I think that being up on Scenario and having enough pieces to still pull off some trades will at least lend me the opportunity to wear down my opponent's clock enough to where I might be able to win on clock if I can't pull off some kind of attrition play that I don't really think is going to happen. But other than that, the game's going about how I expected. I'm losing a lot of Sentinels. One of the mistakes that I made on this turn was at the end I forgot to Rhythm of War, which left Imperatus and Disco in threat. The intention was to run Imperatus and then repo him with Rhythm of War behind the forest to be out of line of sight and out of threat of his jacks, but I forgot that, and it's gonna hurt.
It looks like the Covenant Sacrifice did exactly what I wanted, which was he spent all of his Weapon Master attacks dinging up the book, rather than actually, again, hitting my battle group. So at this point, it's late in the game, but I've actually managed to get my army through pretty much what amounts to 25 Weapon Masters relatively unscathed. So I'm very happy with the way that worked out. Templar backs up, he takes care of the Soulless Escort, problem solves itself there. Mechanik walks on up, repairs the Redeemer, repositions back. One play error that I did make was I never moved Tristan up to get the Redeemer back into control, so I'm not able to allocate him any focus. That's actually a relatively costly error, because I want this Redeemer to be able to boost in order to clear out some of these Sentinels that are still in my way. The goal for this turn is to have both the Templar and Scourge of Heresy get Boundless Charge, go in onto Imperatus, and hopefully take him down. So I'm trying to minimize the amount of free strikes I'm taking, I'm trying to clear up my charge lanes. Things are a little bit complicated because Scourge is actually engaging that flag bearer, so it makes him hard to shoot. So the Redeemer is going to try to go at it anyway. He's going to aim and epically fail. Some boosted blast damage just doesn't get through. So Reznik's going to go. He is going to, we're just pre-measuring here to make sure everything's hunky-dory. He's going to walk his 7 inches. He is going to be unable to get within command range of Scourge, unfortunately, in order to, sorry, not Scourge, in command range of Imperatus, in order to curse him. He's going to be just over an inch out. So there's no way he could even walk in there, which is unfortunate for me because that helps out hit a lot. But what he is going to do is he's going to pop Curse the Sentinels, he's going to pop him over the wall, kill him, use that to move Scourge out of combat with the stupid banner, and then Boundless Charge both the heavies. So now I just have that one mook in my way. Bring a Vassal forward, Arcane Bolt, pew pew, he's gone. So that'll take care of that as soon as I figure out where my Vassal is. There he is at. So you have to make sure you get within 7 inches for Mage Static or whatever the Soulless Escort's ability is. So Scourge goes in, Boundless Charge, Pathfinder, move through the objective because that's a thing now. And he goes in on Imperatus and he misses his charge attack. Fantastic. So he'll buy the rest of attacks, he'll actually end up missing another one of those as well. But that's why we dedicate, some more. The Templar goes ahead, he takes a free strike from the Sentinel. It's relatively ineffective, I don't recall it doing much in the way of damage. And then the Templar misses his charge attack as well. And then he'll just buy the rest, and he'll miss at least one more as well, I believe, and do just enough damage to trigger the Phoenix Protocol, leaving Imperatus perfectly well alive. That is pretty frustrating right there. You don't want to blame dice, but I do feel like I sent enough resources in to reasonably kill Imperatus.
So, luckily for me, the Iozan gods let him roll double ones on charges on his jacks, letting Imperatus live. This is going to at least give me the chance to pull off a win in this game, because since I still have Imperatus and I still have a chance as far as attrition, if I'm able to kill these jacks, I might be able to hang in there or at least stay up on clock enough to win on clock. I do the Vengeance move and the charge on the Sentinel that is remaining. Looking back, I probably should have just ran the Sentinel over into 4 inches of his flag to contest his flag in his zone. At this point, I think I'm not able to win on scenario, but it would have given me a higher lead. I think here it would have put me up by 4 instead of just being up by 2. But I'm able to kill his jacks that he's thrown into Imperatus. But again, I forget to Rhythm of War my jacks out of his threat, or at least Rhythm of War them apart so that if he does send something in, that it's not going to be able to attack both of my jacks from one position. It wasn't the best idea to leave them clumped together. I need to get a little bit better about remembering the Rhythm of War, because it can really be a game changer when you Rhythm of War things after killing their jacks and then Rhythm of Warring back out of threat of any retaliation to lose your jacks.
I was certainly not expecting Discordia to just take out the Templar like that, and I'm very, very displeased with how that went. So I spent a little time checking to see, can that one Templar up top charge the Sentinel and then get to Imperatus that way? The answer ultimately is no, not without Boundless Charge, which is just, it's not going to get over there. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to go in man mode, and we're going to go ahead, the Vessel of Judgment is going to clear out the Soulless Escort as well as Lanyssa, and then take another random shot into Discordia. Then we're just going to measure on up. We're going to have the Redeemer come on back. He's going to put some shots into Imperatus to try to soften him up. Hierophant will go. He'll put a free spell on Reznik for fun. Reznik will pull off a Wrack, and the plan is he's just going to go straight on in there. So we're just measuring to see if he can get to everything. He's going to go ahead, he's going to make his charge movement, and after he gets through killing off Imperatus, I time out. So I think that ultimately we played it through, and Reznik was able to kill Discordia, the Sentinel, and camp on 3, and then Helynna was unable to come in and kill him. So ultimately I think the list is very good. It was into a very good opponent with a very difficult matchup. It's just something where you need practice, you need better clock management, and that'll come with time. But thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed Protectorate of Menoth as much as I did.